Oh. Hi,
Hello.
girls. Are we all okay?
I'm good, thank you. Are
Oh,
you?
yeah, good,
Yes, yes,
thank
yes.
you.
Got my brew.
Have
Ah,
you? Yeah, coffee. I've got decaf.
it's late.
Um,
It's
I
definitely
know,
big. I've
exactly.
got tea, to be fair.
I don't want to be up all night. That'd be terrible. Archie's
Mm,
actually falling asleep now and he's sleeping all the way through, so I'm soaking it all up.
my jinx.
Yeah.
Yeah, enjoy it.
Absolutely. I don't know how long for. But anyway, episode three. For everyone that's listening, we are going to be talking today about flexibility and how we approach special occasions, or whether it's just catching up with friends on a weekend, but being a bit more flexible rather than that structured 9 to 5, Monday to Friday kind of thing. So just throw it out there, girls. Like, what are your main tips or tricks that you've learned along the way in your journey?
I'll
Go
get
on, Sarah. Sarah, you
Should
go
we kick us off
first.
first? I think it depends, doesn't it? Because I feel like through winter, weekends kind of to me, weekends and events and things don't happen as much. I'm not sure, but obviously through Christmas time. But then you go through like January and February where there's not as many events. So I think it's much easier. And then I feel like you get to this time of year where we're going into summer, and then you suddenly look at your diary and it's like every weekend is filled with something. And that's when I think,
Barbecues.
yeah, barbecues, bottomless brunches, like
Mm.
it's all those sorts of things come around in summer. And I think that's when it feels harder and maybe more overwhelming, would you say? Um, because it's happening more often. It's harder to get your head round.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And that's the time when you're wearing like, short sleeves, you've got more skin exposed, and that's time that you want to feel good and achieve, your goals really.
Yeah. I think for me, like it's definitely been a work in progress and a massive learn along the way because had you have asked me that question probably 3 or 4 years ago, I was probably the person that was saying no to social plans because I didn't want to ruin what I was doing, or I was still very much kind of in that headspace of I don't want to undo everything that I've done, so I'm just not going to go. Or I'd be that person who was like taking my meals with me, kind of thing, which is fine if people want to do that. But I think now, after having spent some time on sort of mindset around that, especially around like, I mean, to be honest, at Christmas time, I don't have the want or the need to like fully binge because everything that I do now doesn't restrict me. So I don't have that kind of urge to binge at those sort of seasonal times. And then with regards to, weekend plans, things like that, I think that I've definitely got better as I've got older, I think, at saying no to things that I genuinely don't want to go to, because I
Yeah.
think that rather than having to feel you have to say yes all the time, that has been a big shift for me. But also just allowing myself to enjoy it, whatever that might be, if it's the bottomless brunch or if it's going out for dinner. And if I want to be or make more sort of nutritional choices and be a bit more mindful, then I'll make choices however I want to make, or if I want something a bit more sort of calorific, then I'll have that. But I think where people go wrong is where they do what they want and then they punish themselves for it the next day. Then that's not a treat, is it? It's
Yeah.
like if you're then going to punish yourself the next day and sort of start to speak to yourself not very nicely, well then what's the point in doing it? Because it takes the
You lose the treat, don't you? You lose the enjoyment.
yeah. Yeah, but I've definitely been there in the past where I've gone, oh God, I've massively overindulged this weekend. Now I'm just not going to eat for 3 days. Like, or I've been in that place previously, but now I think because and I also, if I have a few days or whatever of eating more calorific things or doing loads and loads of stuff on a weekend or whatever, I know that the reason I'm not doing that is because I know it's not going to make me feel great. So it's
Yeah.
not as if I want to do it, you know? But never do
That's
I
like,
feel like I've missed out.
yeah, and I feel like maybe because I'm getting old, but
Yeah.
I've got with drinking as well. Like, I absolutely love going out for a bottomless brunch or something like that. But I think I'm much more aware now of how that
Mm.
affects me the next day, or
the rest of the week when I've been out and then I'm tired, and I know then I don't feel as good throughout the week, or I know that the next day after I've been out drinking, like, I'm definitely going to order a takeaway because I'm not going to want to cook. I'm not going to
Yeah.
get any steps in. And some days that's absolutely fine. Like, some days that is exactly what you need to do. And some days you think, when that's happening every weekend, then your week, you're not feeling your best, are you, through the week? And I feel like that makes me sound so old nowadays. Like, if 18-year-old me heard me say it, she'd be like, what are you on about? But now I just prioritize the things that make me feel good, and
Yeah.
drinking every weekend doesn't anymore. Like, that's just the point I've got to. I am officially old.
Yeah.
No, I think you're so right in what you're saying. Like, it's a big thing of how you feel mentally around it. So a lot of people, like, when you're in the moment and that peer pressure comes, and it can come in quite strongly if you've got a group of friends that are quite, why are you drinking? Or, here, have the shots, or and those kind of things, or go on, have it, or I'm having cake, I've baked it, you've got to, that kind of thing, and you feel like you're trying to please someone else by having that shot, or I think definitely with more of a mindset of what's going to serve me best for tomorrow, or how am I going to feel when my head hits the pillow this evening. Like, I'm going to be happy with the choices that I've made, or am I going to feel a little bit crappy? And the only way you can do that is by learning by mistake and noting, right, I feel crap right now, these are the actions that made me feel crap, I don't want to do that again. And it doesn't happen overnight, but it, like, slowly comes down, and you get stronger at saying, I'll have one, but I'm all right now, or no, thank you. I think a big thing for me was realizing that I don't need to justify my choices to anyone else. I'm doing me, you do you. And I think I've got stronger at doing that for so many years now that it just comes quite natural. And sometimes people go, oh, I'll drive, and they kind of hide that they don't want to drink and things like that. But I think that takes away if you do want to be inclusive. So I think if you do want to have one or two, just say, I'm having one or two when it comes to alcohol. Yeah, and just going a bit more with a strategic plan rather than going in free for all.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's the part of it is where, like you said, Jamie, the mindset around it and where your decisions actually come from. Like, if you're eating or drinking whatever, and that's come from a place of wanting to fit in with the people around you, or there is that encouragement or almost peer pressure of, oh, just have it, or just eat it, or what you're doing, that kind of thing, like, versus you going, well, no, I'm okay, thank you, or I'm going to drive tonight, or I'll have a takeaway, but I'm going to have this instead of that. Like, there's a difference when it's what you want to do versus what you think you should be doing to please other people. Like, I can quite easily go out on a weekend and want to socialize and just not think about sort of repercussions the next day. But if I am doing that, if I know, for example, I'm going to be going out and it's quite heavily, like, in terms of alcohol and food and meals, I'll just make sure that I have like a load of water throughout the day. I'll make sure that my meals are still the same so that I'm not starving myself before I go out. And if I want to get up the next morning and have a fry up because that's what I feel like doing, then that is what I'll do. I think where, again, people go wrong is that they then think, oh God, I've done this, therefore I've got to change something to fix that. And it's like, actually, no, just carry on doing what you was doing. And sometimes, like, if we're on diets or plans or whatever for 365 days of the year, and you're, working on your nutrition, your mindset, you're moving, say, I don't know, 300 days out of those 65, people focus on the 65 days that they've not done those things rather than the 300 that they have. And it's like, just because you go off a little bit, or you might go off track, or you might have a bit of an overindulging weekend, your body doesn't then forget about all of the good work that you've done in that time. So there's no reason to have to fix it, sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's like one gym session doesn't make you a bodybuilder. Like, and then, one or two drinks on the weekend isn't gonna throw all that hard work, but it's when it's constant. And I think, like you said,
Yeah.
Sarah, the recovery of it if you are making, you know, really excessive choices and you're not coming round to feeling your normal self until Wednesday because your sleep's been rubbish and, you know, you've got loads of pressure with work and things, Wednesday you're like, yeah, I feel good. Before you know it, you're at Friday and everyone in the office is bringing in X, Y, and Z. It's dressed down day or whatever. And then we're back at the weekend and you've got big plans again. So out of those 7 days, only 2 of them have been actually routine and, you know, full capacity of what you actually want to do. So yeah, definitely it's just being mindful with what you want to achieve. And one thing that I definitely learned was to manage my expectations. If I'm doing a busy week and like I'm gonna be having a little bit more consumption or moving less or whatever that looks like, is to expect to maybe have a little bit of bloating or a little bit of a digestion problem because I'm not eating my normal staple foods. Then when I, you know, if I was to be taking measurements or data, then it's not going to be expected for me to lose X amount of pounds. I think it's unrealistic for people to, when they're doing their check-in, whether whatever measurements they're taking, to be like, oh, I've only lost this, but actually what have you done to
Yeah.
you know, so just manage your expectations. It's quite normal for you to maintain or for you to put on a, you know, a pound or whatever. If you are having that normal week, it doesn't again wreck your hard work. But it's just evaluating how you feel about that.
Yeah. I
Definitely.
definitely think, like you say, it's if you're doing an overindulging every single weekend, then yes, like you say, expect that you're probably not going to get wherever you want to be, whatever that might look like for an individual, perhaps as quickly as you would hope and expect to get there, but get there a little bit slower. Like, and I mean that in a sense of sometimes people have to weigh up, like, what am I actually, like you said, what am I actually trying to achieve? But what am I actually doing to get there? Because if I am going out every single weekend, or actually my diet's quite, you know, or could be better or could have improvements in areas, well, then you're always going to get the same result. And if your movement's lacking, then, like you say, it's about managing those expectations, isn't it?
And it's what means the most to you as well, isn't it? Like, what is your biggest priority at that moment? Like, for some people, but summer is like the perfect time. It's your socializing time. That's the time when everyone seems to come alive again and all your plans come in. And maybe summer is more of just a relaxed time, and it's kind of, you go to more, if your goal is fat loss overall, you might go for more of like maintenance, like you said, through summer. And there's all like little swaps you can do, isn't there? Like if you go for a vodka lime and soda, it's less calories than if you had a cider. You can kind of, if that is your main priority, there are still things you can do to prioritize that. But for me, it would always be, what do you want? What is your biggest priority, and what's ultimately going to make you feel best? Like, what you kind of just need to prioritize what makes you feel best, what's going to make you happiest. Is that going to be all your social occasions? Is that going to be going to your social occasions but being aware of the choices that you make, maybe cutting a couple of beers out and having some waters in between? Or is that going to be prioritizing more of like the salad and the fruit salad bits at a barbecue, instead of loading up on the potato salad, which I would definitely be loading up the potato salad and coleslaw. But it's kind of what means the most to you.
I think when people have the high restriction, that's when they indulge more at the
100%,
events.
yeah.
Whether it just being an event that you're going with one friend and you're meeting up for a coffee, or whether it be a big, you know, a big barbecue or whatever, if you've highly restricted throughout the week or even throughout the morning, you're going to want to go all in. And I think if you go to an event feeling wholesome, 80% full, and there is bits and bobs, you'll just have a little, you know, here and there. But if you know what it's like, I know it's like, if I'm starving and we go out, I'm like watching the door. Is the chef coming out? Is that mine? You know, so really going into those things, like even if you're just having a little apple or a protein bar in your bag, I went to a wedding and, I think I had about 5 weddings last year because it was out of COVID, and I took snacks with me, although it was beautiful presented food. Like, it's a long day, and everyone's like, oh, can I have one of them? Can I have one of them? Oh, you should have brought your own snacks. But I know.
Always got snacks.
Exactly, yeah. But knowing your body, knowing what you need, and then you're not gonna want to like chase that meal in the evening. And then obviously when you eat super late and things, then it can mess with your sleep. So then the following day you're like, oh, what's going on? So it can be a big ordeal if you just make too many choices that you're not happy with.
Yeah. And I think as well, it comes back to that kind of if you've got that sort of all or nothing mindset of, like you say, if you're overly restricting and then you finding the consequence of that, or the result of that is then that you're going to an event and then feeling the need to binge, and then it's not just that day, it's almost like, well, I've done one day, so I might as well just carry on for the rest of the week. I think it's that as well, where sometimes people can get a little bit stuck in terms of, well, I've done the day now, I may as well just carry on for the rest of the day, where actually I can, again, through experiences and through learning, if I'm going out for breakfast or an event or a party, wedding, whatever, then I just make sure, because I want to, that everything else throughout the day is what I would normally do. Like you say, that routine, the foods I would normally eat, making sure that I've had some movement, I've had some fruit and vegetables, I've had a load of water, and it's just that event that then I can have the meal if I want to, or I can have the extra drinks if I want to, and then just kind of get back on it the next day, rather than feeling like, oh, well, I've done that now, I've got to carry on. May as well just carry on for the rest of the week because I've undone it all.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that if I was listening to our bits and pieces, like, I can only imagine like my previous self. Like, I wish that I had like advice from others to help me, not speed my journey up, but just give me a little bit more advice, because I mean, now everything's a lot more open. People are doing webinars and things like that and sharing their journeys. But, I'm like 15 years into my journey from, and it's quite like, if I had some knowledge shared like this from other people's stories, I think that would be super helpful. And obviously what we've learned, it's going to help some people, and it's not going to help everyone because we've all got different lives. But yeah, I just think it's nice to share your opinions.
And like socials at the minute, like if I was starting now and I went onto social media, like you have the people that are like, you should never like consider calories, just enjoy everything, like everything only happens once in your life, enjoy it, go all out, be intuitive with your eating. And that's one way. And then you've got the whole, no, you should be restricting, cut down your calories, go for the lowest calorie option for everything. And it's kind of like finding that in the middle. And I saw a really good thing on Instagram about how being mindful with your eating is the ability to say yes and no to foods, and not feel guilty about it. So to say, do you know what? Someone's brought loads of cookies into the office today, and I'm going to have them because I want one, and that's what I want. But also being able to say, no, do you know what? That doesn't align with what I want today. I know I'm going home for takeaway and pudding for tea, so I don't need to have that now in the office. And it's kind of that ability to say yes and no and make that decision mindfully. I would say I read that quite recently, and I feel like that's a really good way of putting it, that you're not kind of, you don't have to say yes to everything because you feel like that's what the body positivity people say, and you don't have to go down the bricks and everything because that's what someone else says. It's kind of being mindful, and it's not black and white, is it? It's not that easy.
Just taste the food. I think that if you actually like think about, does it actually taste nice? Am I just eating it for the sake of it? Like, there's a lot of times where you think, I'm not actually keen on this, but I'm just eating it.
Eating it for the sake of it. Yeah. I think that's it as well. And it's like, I get exactly what you've just mentioned there about being more aware of your feeling before you eat that food. Like, are you eating because you're hungry? Are you eating because you're bored? That's another thing. are you eating because you're craving a particular, like for me, I know if I'm thinking of, oh, I'll have a biscuit and then I'm gonna have another biscuit and then I'm gonna have another biscuit, I'll catch myself and almost go, right, why am I eating this? It's because I'm bored and I'm sat not doing anything. As long as I catch it, I'm like, right, okay, rather than doing that, I'm just gonna have the one and then I'm gonna take myself out for a walk, because I know once I've come back, I'll be fine. I think sometimes where people can struggle, and again, we've obviously all been there in the past and now we're in a much different place, is the how do they get from where they are, where they might still be having some of those feelings around bored, need to binge, got a bit of a sweet tooth, whatever it might be, versus where we are now. And don't get me wrong, like I still have days where I'm like, you know what, I just want to eat everything in the cupboards.
Yeah, 100%. And I do eat everything in the cupboard someday.
Yeah. And I'm just like, I'm gonna do it. I want to do it. I'm not gonna punish myself, and I'll just go back into routine tomorrow. And that's the decision that I have made. But like you say, it's where that decision comes from, isn't it? Like I'm doing that because that's what I want to do that day, and that's it. And I'm just gonna do what I can the next day to maybe move a little bit more if I need to or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. We haven't got much time left, girls, but we can continue it if anyone's got any questions. But I think that if anyone is listening and they kind of hear like a few things that they could maybe need help with, to just reach out to any of us, because we've all got different journeys and different stories, and yeah, we just want to help anyone that's kind of listening. That's why we're doing this.
Yeah. And also summer is the perfect time because all the like nice fruits and veggies are out, so you can nourish yourself with all of those. And you can get outside so much more, so your social occasions can be more walks and things like that. So
yeah,
summer is the perfect time. If you're wanting to make a little change, it is the perfect time to enjoy it.
Absolutely.
sure.
Tennis,
sure.
all the tennis stuff starts soon,
Yeah.
so everyone will start getting the bad tennis rackets out, won't they?
Progress.
Yeah, I know that Sam and Izzy have just started planting all their fruit and vegetables, so I'm clocking it ready for the winter to go on my Christmas dinner.
Ooh. Love that. I wish I could be like that. I'm not in that era yet. Maybe in
Yeah.
10 years